am Dr. Julie Galvin from Galvin Growth Group.
And I'm Dr. Elizabeth Snyder, and we are here today to talk about the first chapter of the Untangled book for our Untangled video series. And I'm really excited. The first chapter is about parting from childhood, which is this first big step, right, in this transition period, going from being a kid to being an adult, which is kind of a big, scary time. And, you know, the book really talks about how teenage girls can maybe feel aloof. There can be a lot of misunderstandings. They want to be independent and kind of show what they can do. I always think a lot about the toddler years, right, when they're transitioning from being a baby to being a kid, and there's a lot of temper tantrums. They want to do everything independently. You know, sometimes they cuddle, sometimes they're running off or doing other things. And so I think that this kind of parting from childhood really mimics those years a little bit. And, you know, the author talks about, you know, around age 12 is when they're kind of ready to kind of leave childhood behind and jump into the world of teenagers and adults.
And I think it's hard. I think us as parents, we kind of cling to some of these childhood behaviors and interests and cuddling and holding hands crossing the street. But the fact is that the girls need to do this in order to navigate adolescence successfully. So I think once we know this information, we understand it and we can tolerate it better. And even more than that, help support the girls go through these stages.
Absolutely. And there's so much good content in this chapter. We're just going to highlight a couple of our favorite areas, right? Kind of keep the video short and quick for those of you who are reading along with us. But Dr. Galvin, what was your favorite part of the chapter?
I liked a lot of this chapter for sure, but I think if I were to pick one section, I would have to pick the swimming pool metaphor.
Yes.
I think that it helped me understand a lot of the push and pull that we see these girls going through. And the metaphor basically is that we as the parents are the wall of the pool. We're the safety net. That's where the girls go when they've been out in the world, which is the water in the pool. And they want to explore the water and they're having fun and, taking it all in. But sometimes it gets too much or they just need a break. And where do they go? They come back to the wall, to us as parents, for that safety and catching their breath. But then again, before we know it, just as we're kind of settling into that nice childhood bond again that we had with them, they push off the wall and they go back out there. And so I think it just helps us understand, like, this is normal and they're going to come and go and we can expect it. And we need to be strong and resilient and there for them as much as they bounce back and forth between the water and the wall, that we're always there for them, supporting them. What did you think about that section?
I love this metaphor too. It's one of my favorite parts of the chapter too. And what I think I really like about this metaphor is, you know, the coming and going, right, is normal. But I think what the author really emphasizes with the wall in the swimming pool is that you don't just kind of like let go of the wall and slowly glide away, right? You push off of the wall. And so when they come in for safety and they're cuddling with you, they're talking with you, they're maybe telling you secrets or stories, and it's wonderful. They don't just kind of like, okay, it was a nice chat, like we'll do this again, right? They kind of like push off, right? Then they go off and spend all their time with their friends. They don't talk to you as much. Maybe you get the silent treatment. Maybe they become a little bit snarky the next day, right? Like that push off is abrupt, right? And significant. And I think what the author really talks about is how that's somewhat normal, right? Like they're trying to come to this place where they're totally independent. They feel like they shouldn't need anyone, right? They can handle it on their own. They don't need their mom. They don't need their dad. And so when you get those really close moments with them, they kind of subconsciously rebound by kind of going to the other extreme, right? And I think that back and forth with those extremes, this metaphor really speaks to as kind of being normal, which is hard as a parent, right? But I think knowing that it's kind of typical helps the parents kind of say, okay, this won't last forever, right? We'll get through this. This is okay.
And I think not only was it valuable to us as readers, but Dr. Lisa Damour, the author, talks about how this is a metaphor that parents over the years come back and have shared with her, that it was so helpful for them to keep that in mind as they go through this push in full series of the girls coming to us and pushing off that this is normal. And so I think we weren't alone in feeling that way about that section. What's another section for you, Dr. Snyder, that resonated with you?
I really liked the totally competent except when not section, which I think is something that a lot of my clients' parents talk to me about, right? Like, they're like, my girl can organize a party, right? She can get an A on her test. She can, create these really awesome art projects or, learn how to play the cello, but she can't do her laundry and she can't, get up on time and she cannot order food at a restaurant or, she can't apply for a job. And these independent skills don't develop evenly in anyone, right? And so thinking about, we might think, well, because they can do A, we assume they can do B because they're kind of similar, or maybe B is even easier than A and they can already do A. The truth is that it doesn't really work like that in real life, right? Like they might be doing something really hard and then really struggle at something that seems easy to us, but is actually maybe really difficult for a teenage girl. And some of that comes from kind of their own personal view on what's hard and what's easy. There's some generational differences there, right? Like how much time spent on the phone, picking up the phone and calling people can be really, really scary for, the younger generation. And it might be something that seems easy to us. And I really like how the author also kind of talks about this idea in education, which is one of, the golden ideas in education, which is I do, we do, you do, to kind of teach these skills. So, doing something first, letting her observe, doing it together, and then kind of letting her go off and do it on her own, whether it's, in the book, the examples they talk about are, putting her contacts in or, calling to make an appointment with the pediatrician. These life skills that they're going to have to learn how to do, really being patient and taking the time to teach them, even if it's something that seems easy to us.
I think she does a nice job, too, of sharing that a lot of times they'll show more independence with the adults in their family, but then when it comes to an adult outside of the family, that it's more difficult. So if it's interacting with a doctor or a guidance counselor or a teacher, that the walls kind of go up for the kids. And so by us kind of helping them navigate and scaffold it, like you just described, helps them feel more competent and confident that they can do that. And so that's a normal trajectory to start with us and their family, but then move to the outer world and be more confident in interacting with adults.
Absolutely. And recognizing that fear with other adults is kind of a normal level of anxiety. It's normal to feel anxious about emailing a teacher about a late assignment or talking to your doctor about maybe something that makes you feel a little bit awkward. And I think sometimes parents get worried that it's a clinical degree of anxiety when in reality it's kind of this normal part of development.
Exactly.
So that was my favorite part of the chapter. And there are so many good parts to this chapter that I wish we could talk about, but I know we want to keep this kind of short and sweet for everyone reading along. But if there's a section we didn't talk about that you really want us to talk about, shoot us a comment, shoot us an email. We'll either reply or maybe we'll talk about it in our next video. I know like the female Peter Pan section was really interesting to me. And I know you really liked also the reluctant to bloom section. So lots of good parts of this chapter. And we'll also have the blog linked to this video, which will give some more resources and information there as well.
Well, we appreciate you following us and liking us. Please do comment and send questions. And we look forward to meeting with you next week as we discuss Chapter 2, which is Finding a New Tribe. Another great chapter, another stage of development that's going to be fun to learn about and talk about next week.
Absolutely. All right. See you next week.
Bye-bye.